Okay, and we are back. So, you guys know what that means. Month in review. First up, we got Rise of the RUNELORDS by Will Black. Oh man, so much. Okay, so Rise of the RUNELORDS. The things I definitely liked about this leg of the game was definitely the atmosphere, the lighting, the map design, the fact that you're able to go back and explore Sanatorium, especially if you're not good with this whole stealth mission thing and exploring it the first time through. But I do like, you know, the intentional backtracking. It is pretty cool. Great battle balance all the way through and through, all the way down to the Devil's Platter. Your resources last just long enough to between save points, so it works out really, really well. I really liked the Mana Core fight. I wasn't expecting that. That thing was a big sack of hit points, and it actually legitimately had me terrified for my life. I also like in the Devil's Platter that it has a couple of new and interesting enemies, like the Troglodytes, the Duragar, and what else is there? The Gremlins. It's like old but new. It's like, and the Gremlins are upgraded to Goblins. I think that's pretty awesome. Other than that, use of puzzles all through the Temple of Kabiri were pretty awesome. It reminds me of something, but I don't know what. But I love flame torch puzzles like that. And yeah, that one jump scare was never saw it coming. And hey, I found that there's two secret characters. And that's pretty awesome. You know, having just secret characters in a game at large. Both Shalila and Morn. All in all, I did really like this leg of Rise of the RUNELORDS. Going down into the Devil's Platter. Even when you get down in the Temple of Kabiri, it still has that immersive adventure horror feel. The only detractors I really have on it are that I found a bug when the sun rod runs out when combat begins. And other than that, no real major complaints or criticisms other than this leg. My overview on Rise of the RUNELORDS Chapter 2 in the second leg is it definitely has a modernized classic JRPG feel, like a classic JRPG that's brought a lot of formulas and a lot of knowledge from the modern era. The next one is Elytrum by Rockbird. It definitely caters to my personal sense of humor. I felt largely attacked by it. It has a very simple, minimalist, non-intrusive UI. It's fun and upbeat, doesn't take itself seriously. Lightning is Protagonist is a lightning elemental, which is something that's a personal plus with me. I love the characterization in that each character has their own personal voice. And that each character is dramatically different from the next. I do like that there is some mild world building at the end that talks about, or at the first ending, as opposed to secret ending, that does talk about other places in the world. The dialogue is to die for. I find it extremely comedic. The world is absolutely insane. Just like with Book of Shadows, it builds its own sense of immersion by hype within the game, and never ever breaks that immersion, or never breaks that suspension of disbelief. It's like, yep, this is perfectly normal in this chaotic world. I like that there's hand-drawn assets through and through. And as far as the battle system, battles are player favoring when done right, and enemy favoring when done wrong. I like that it's very simple and straightforward. Is that there's not too much to it. And I do like that it does have alternate pathing and an alternate ending to it. And it does have its secret characters in the Spider and the Scorpions. The only detractors I really have on this game are that rhythm battles take a lot of practice. There is definitely input lag to it, which makes it even harder to get used to. I feel like it could be a little bit more forgiving, or that there could be something done differently with it. Let's see here. And the other detractor was just that bird boss is way too hard. which led me to believe that, hey, this game could really benefit from a retry upon death option. Overall, really like the game a lot. It's very funny, very humorous, very comedic, and is very good at holding your attention and getting you to just wonder, oh my god, what's coming down the pipe next? And then, Even for Eternia by RADIANTARIN. In this leg, still as always, great map design, great use of lighting in the mountain cave. Definitely like the music, characterization and interplay is still there. Battle balance. I finally found out that the battle balance in this game feels like it's a little bit on the enemy favoring side, where it's where you really do have to just kind of like grind through and guard through battles. That, you know, you can't just do special attacks back to back to back. You can't just attack back to back to back. It's that there is battles are going to be drawn out and take a while and be enemy favoring on the trash mob level. But by contrast, boss battles, especially against that Wraith, seem to be incredibly player favoring. It's like the Wraith didn't really seem that hard, it just seemed like a standard tank and crank, you know? But the other thing I really like is that hand-drawn cutscene with Apple in the inn. The Wraith battles are fun and interesting. I imagine on Umbra difficulty that they are supposed to be super stressful, as they should be. The Wraith trash mobs are easy. The Wraith trash mobs are easy to run from. You don't have to fight them. But didn't get the chance to really test out the risk reward, so I really encourage other players and other testers to test that out. I also like that there were simple rock sliding puzzles in this one. Always a fan of puzzles. And then let's see here, detractors as far as this leg of Even for Eternia goes, is that Leg 2 just seems really grind heavy and breaks from a lot of the previous established patterns of Leg 1. With Leg 1 it was about 4 scenes between rest points, whereas in Leg 2 it's 9 plus. So it's over double the span between healing points, so I'm not quite sure if I missed something in town before setting out on the mountain, or if backtracking to get stuff from town is really necessary. Healing items really don't feel like enough in this leg. Like I said earlier, you seem to get caught trying to regain your magic than healing. I feel like it could benefit a lot more from more healing items, or at least more mats for healing items in this leg. I think the rest area would probably make more sense at the camp at the top of the cave as opposed to 2 screens away from the boss battle. But subjective, I can understand that RN wants to keep with the rest stops being NPC owned, so to speak. I noticed that throughout this leg also the characters are slightly underleveled, though at least on normal difficulty it doesn't seem to take too much of a difference. That and it feels like the boss still could have been taken about 1 level lower. The other thing I really had an issue with, healing items, gear, and crafting mats are all on the other side of the boss. I can see why it's there, but at the same time I'm just kind of like, eh. Other than that, last detractor is just that Wolf's damage just seems aberrantly low compared to everybody else. Or Apple and Ruby. Apple and Ruby seem to be within about 15 points of damage of one another, whereas Wolf is like 35 points behind everyone else. And I think there might be something wrong with Wraith Buster, because using that against Wraith does less damage than Vital Slash. So I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong or what. Overview, this leg feels a bit grind heavy and is not as immersive as the first leg, but I'm going to stick it out, see where things go. Next up, Gravely in Debt by Hawk Zombie. Okay, here's what I loved about this game. This game had extremely comedic dialogue and extremely awesome and comedic characterization and interplay. Hawk really knows how to write characters. I can tell just by playing this game, and I really commend you on that, dude. It has really comedic meta text all the way through. It's a very beginner-friendly game, and it has very easy to grasp power curve mechanics. It's mechanically simple. The game starts out enemy favoring, but then becomes very quickly player favoring as you gain the right equipment and get better gear. And once again, it's one of those places where it's just an insane fantasy world that hypes its own sense of immersion and never breaks sense of disbelief. It does have a lot of well-placed references, and to me, it has a really Mel Brooks style comedy feel to it. The only detractors, what I want to say about this game, is that it really lacks in world building, but it's kind of a simple world and a simple story, so I don't really particularly think it needs that. Maps are really overly simple, but they're charming at the same time. The other thing is just there seems to be large jumps in mechanical power from one location to the next. Maybe something a little bit smoother scaling might work. Other than that, that's about it. The best overview I can give of Gravely Aimed Jet is that it is a story of a simple comedy, and I really enjoy it a lot. Next up, Book of Shadows. Okay, so what did I like about this game? It still has an extremely charming atmosphere, very Final Fantasy IV, very escapist vibe to it. World is still insane. Alex is handling like a boss. And the one thing I did notice in this leg is that the world is very networked, and it has this, like, the entire world exists, and Alex is just interjected into it, and everybody knows everybody and everything that's going on. It's kind of funny to see Alex just learn to just be like, okay, we're doing whatever. And it still has all the same great characterization, immersion, world building. School Under Attack by Pencils is absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. The Blender Boss is absolutely ridiculous, and I love it. It does have good jumps in difficulty. That's another thing that I wanted to point out, is that the entire front half, the front half of the Earth Mana Caves, was the Mana Caves or the Earth Caves? Yeah. The first half of the caves was very casual, very carefree, but compared to the back end of the Mana Caves, enemies hurt, but are still manageable. The game, what am I saying? Yeah, it's definitely good jumps and it's definitely, let me start over. Okay, so from the front to the back of the Mana Cave, it's a good jump in difficulty. Like, it just kind of injects you into learning to fight harder opponents. And then from the back end of the Mana Cave to the pencil attack, from the pencil attack to the bird attack. And yeah, like I said, enemies are manageable, but they hurt, but they're still manageable. Battle balance definitely favors the player in this game. Getting things wrong makes things difficult, but it's not inherently deadly. Some of the detractors, there's still some unwieldy dialogue and a few minor typos. Once Josie is obtained, though, the optimal way of fighting the birds isn't really all that intuitive. It heavily implies Cedric, and probably might be best leaving or having the player decide how they want to form their party after that cutscene. But maybe have more showboating of Cedric. I don't know. Looking back on it, I felt that was pretty obvious, and I felt like I was dumb for not realizing that sooner. But yeah, usually when you go up against air enemies, you don't think Earth will work against them, but no, Cedric just turns into the absolute beast against them. The other thing is there's not a whole lot of story progression in this leg. It just feels like you're kind of in transit to the next point, story-wise. A couple things that I have mixed feelings on. I'm sure glad Liana had that huge cache of expendable items. This leg was extremely resource intensive. Another thing is, I don't trust that bird question mark. Rosenhearts. Next up. Okay, so I do like the disclaimer of the vernacular to Victorian era. It has a good icy explanation of all the meta concepts in the first scene. The UI to Rosenhearts is absolutely beautiful and absolutely appropriate. It has a very steampunk vibe, it has a unique layout, and it's easy to navigate. The other thing I really liked was the animated battle backs and the attack wheel. Always a huge fan of an attack wheel in battle. The other thing is, it has a really unique tile set that kind of reminds me of Alondra for PlayStation. I like that it has a lot of hand-drawn assets. It has phenomenal characterization. Each character is a different story. Naomi is a badass cinnamon roll, and she makes a great deuteragonist. Victoria is a highly admirable protagonist, despite not being a Shujinko, which I'm actually really surprised by. Shujinko meaning the plucky, indefatigable, unstoppable, good archetype. Not necessarily a Mary Sue, but just that kind of like, yeah, let's do this! You know, go-getting hero. She's definitely not that. She's very intelligent, she's very educated, she's very erudite, she's perceptive, she's classy, she drives the story, she lends herself to a transatlantic voice extremely well. Phileas, he is definitely the lore master and the viewer's avatar. It feels like you play the game through Phileas, really, kind of like in how Book of Shadows you play it through Alex. I love the cascade damage effects in battle. Acting is lent very well in the dialogue, and it reads very cleanly and very theatrically. The scripting actually reads a whole lot more like a theatrical script than any RPG game script. I do like that there's some good feels train moments. You know, just gets you all emotional. Especially with like the snakes and the and Twee, I think the Dryad. There's a lot of good moments in there. All the mapping in Rosenhearts is absolutely beautiful. The interiors are just, I couldn't stop staring at them. I couldn't stop getting distracted by them. Siren's quarters were memorizing. Twinkle Twee's house was amazing. I couldn't stop looking at it. And even in the exterior mapping is absolutely beautiful and atmospheric. I like that the game actually uses real-life lore. I like that you get XP for not robbing the citizenry and not going through their stuff and robbing them blind. It has a good soundtrack, good music. Not really Victorian per se, but it's very soft and relaxing and atmospheric and kind of suits the mood of a forest. But yeah, it finally did have Victorian music in the boss battle, and I was a real huge fan of that. Battle balance here seems to be player favoring. You're never in danger of dying, even when you get things wrong. There's ample healing items to get all the way through the demo, too. I can also tell that the battle philosophy in this game is engaging and rhythmic. You just kind of get set into a rhythm once you figure out how to do things, and it's actually pretty engaging and rewarding and exciting at that. There is some slight graphic lag that I was noticing with the special effects. And I feel like there could be some minor improvements to some of the verbiage. But again, it's a demo. The info points are difficult to narrate effectively because text just scrolls faster than you can talk. But it's easy to read, minor gripe, not a big deal for me. My overview of this is that it is the absolutely most highly polished demo I think I have honestly ever seen. Radiant Arc. Oh my god, where do I go with Radiant Arc? Did I have... Oh, I forgot to write down. Okay, but I still have it. Okay, so Radiant Arc. This leg, I actually liked it a lot. Once again, I spent half of it getting sidetracked and wanting to explore everything and doing everything. But the mapping is absolutely beautiful. I love Linky's map design. I love his use of tile set, especially in the forest. How he uses a lot of Metroid-style hidden, secret areas. The music is great. I love the cascade damage. I especially like the scene once they get to the Guild of Light. And I will definitely say, against that Dragoon, I was pleasantly surprised to get my ass absolutely handed to me. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a third, standard. He's gonna go up in the air, I'm gonna guard, it's gonna be fine, and nope, just outright defeat. Once again, still a huge fan of the hand-drawn assets in this game, too. Especially that one scene where it's Linky and Lexi, and they're just holding each other after they share a very touching, emotional moment where Linky's like, I don't know if I'm good enough. And Lexi's like, you have to be, I believe in you, and I love you! And, yeah, that was real touching and awesome. Battle balance is totally player favoring, especially once you start building yourself right. And yeah, as far as the only cons of this game, still overworld lag, not the hugest fan of it, but it's not a deterrent for me by far. The other gripe, minor gripe I should say, was just the tree boss. It felt like a kind of a tank and crank. They're just like, okay, we're just sitting here gonna do damage to it now that we've wiped out the minions. But no, the one thing I did actually I should say have a mixed feeling on that is that the one thing that was good is that while he wasn't much of a threat, he was a threat over time, so you really had to, keep yourself topped off on that. And make sure that your heroes weren't dying like mine. And, let's see here. And then Trailblazer, we covered that. I definitely like that Trailblazer a lot. Let me actually just make a quick thing here for that. Because I totally was not expecting this. Give me a second. And then, yeah. Myrtle Turtle, don't say that name out loud, Ventus. I almost died. But yeah, that's actually... But let's see here. Give me a second here. Yeah. Ugh. Alright, so let's see here. Woo! Trailblazer! Was not ready for this, my apologies. Well, but anyway, so Trailblazer. Definitely a huge fan! I like the writing, I like the characterization, I like the world, the unique tile set, the map design, the music, the sound effects, the special effects, the animations, characterization, world building. All of these are really, really strong assets. Like I said in my review of the game itself, it has very period and setting accurate dialogue. I love the victory screen and theme, where it's just like this really celebratory Mexican guitar. It has a lot of comedic points to it. It's definitely a lot like Gravely Undead, a lot like Book of Shadows. Storytelling through comedy, for the most part. Or I should say, actually, back that up. Characterization through comedy, storytelling through actual seriousness, which is a weird combination, but I like it. It's definitely something unique. And then, oh my god, the world building. It tells you that there's so much more of the world out there than just like Deadwood and South Pass. There's like an entire Americas. You're talking about Wyoming territory, the Sioux Nation, and all that. St. Louis, Cisco, all those. But yeah, moving right along. Yeah, I definitely do love the other thing that this game does well. It has what I call Mega Man methodology, where it introduces something to you one step at a time, and then starts to introduce it in stressful circumstances, so that way you can do it on your own. Especially with battles and duels. And dueling is something so much different. I mean, yes, there are actual duels in this game. For anybody checking out this VOD a little bit later, it's totally different than anything else as far as the battle system goes. I myself think about it as a little bit of a mini game, but no, it is taught very, very well. In that it only lets you, in the beginning, in the first one, it only lets you do one option at a time. and then it opens it up to however you want to do it for yourself. The other thing I like about the game, again, just going back to the comedy aspect of it, with all the funny meta text, all the puns, all the hey puns. Oh my god, I didn't think there were so many hey puns out there. And then, yeah, as far as the interface goes, the interface is very period, it's very clean. I like that that instead of it just having like a click or like a flip or a boink, like most interfaces do. Hey, it looks like Studio Blues rating, and we're just about wrapping up too. It's actually been a kind of short, oddly short day, but thank you guys very much. Oh, where was I? Oh yeah, the other thing I like, other things that I like about this game. I like how when you level up, it gives your character's wanted poster. Especially that was prevalent after the Hanging Judge Parker fight. How it's like every character has like a different meta text to them, I guess you could call it. And again, speaking about user interface, battle, and all that, I really like the use of cascade damage, and I really like the font in this. It's not just any standard font; it actually has that Western font too. And then, yeah, as far as mapping and tile set, I like the overworld. Mode 7 I'm always a fan of, especially with Lost Land mode, where it's like shrunk down little avatars on the overworld, like in Earthbound and the Lost Land. Ah, very good. But other than that, yeah, a couple of trackers. It's still a demo. It still has a couple of typos out there. Still has a couple of bugs. But hopefully by the time you guys are watching this later on, the VOD of this down the line, a lot of those bugs will be improved. But yeah, I definitely recommend anybody who's a streamer, anybody who's a dev, definitely sit down and play this thing. It's definitely good. Really, really good demo, really good characters, really good world. But without much further ado, we're actually going to probably call it an early night here at about 6:12 as opposed to 7 like usual. And before going any further, I just want to thank all my patrons. Thank you for supporting me. You guys are awesome, and if anybody else wants to become a patron, you can click in the tabs below. Every little bit helps. You can also feel free to join my Jack of All Outs Plays Discord server as well. The link below is also in the tabs. I know it's crazy out there, guys, and I know you got to go back to a lot of crazy stuff after this, so y'all take it easy, wash your hands, stay away from large crowds, practice proper social distancing, practice proper self-care, stay hydrated,